Hello, my delicious co-creators. Lilu here. I'm in Ashland in Oregon on this magnificent GC Living tour around the world, and today I have the pleasure to be sitting next to Gary Zukav. Hello.
Hello, Lilu.
It's wonderful to spend this moment with you.
Yes, it's good to be with you again also.
Gary is, as you know, an amazing person that have transformed millions of people's life, has appeared over 30 times on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and today he's with us, and we're going to speak about, you had many best-selling books, New York Times bestsellers, but really today we're going to get into the core of the core. We're going to touch the soul. We're going to go into the heart of it all.
Yes, well, the heart of it all is choosing love. That's the heart. But not a sentimental love, and not a love that you get when things are going the right way, or that someone you want to be with you is with you, but love, meaning the ability to live your life with an empowered heart without attachment to the outcome. The ability to distinguish within yourself the difference between love and fear, and choose love no matter what is going on inside of you or outside of you. In other words, we're going to talk about creating authentic power. Some people might call it self-mastery, but there's different ways of interpreting that word. But authentic power means alignment of your personality with your soul, with the highest part of yourself that you can reach for. And the intentions of your soul are harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life. So as you create a personality that naturally brings the intentions of the soul into the earth school, into being here where we walk and talk and live and eventually will die, you become authentically powerful. That means you become clear and forgiving and humble and loving. These are the characteristics of authentic power.
So you would say that the soul is more powerful than the mind?
What I'm suggesting is that there is no part of us that isn't soul. No part of us that isn't soul. The soul is the bigger, the mind is the smaller. The soul sees more, the mind doesn't see so much. The soul lives and experiences in dimensions that we as personalities don't. Everything is spiritual. Spiritual means having to do with the soul. So it's not a matter of mind, body, spirit. There's only spirit. Everything is spirit. Everything is consciousness with a capital C, or life with a capital L, or love with a capital L. These are all the same things. So as you align yourself with your soul, you're not aligning yourself with your mind. You're aligning yourself
with the heart?
With the heart, yes, you could say that. You could say that because as you create more compassion and wisdom in your life, you naturally become a person who cares more about other people than you did before, who doesn't so much see other people as different. Of course, everyone's unique. But compassion doesn't come from the mind. So it comes from the heart. And so as you become a compassionate person, a loving person, you could say you become a person of the heart. But we're talking about how you become a person of the heart, how you become someone who is loving. And that is to create authentic power.
So are we actually creating or welcoming?
Creating.
We're creating.
Creating. It's not a matter of kicking back and say, well, this feels good, welcome, come on in.
Or by welcoming, I mean allowing and just surrendering to it all for it to come, instead of actively pursuing this authentic power.
You actively create authentic power. Surrender, I don't usually use the word surrender because it has connotations that of being passive. However, there is something about that word that points in a direction that's very healthy. For example, you can't change something about yourself if you're not willing to look at it. You can't look at it if you're not willing to accept that it is a part of you. And until you can really accept that it is a part of you, you can't change it. You'll be pushing it away, denying it, not welcoming it. Mm-hmm. So let's take a part of your personality, for example, anger. Mm-hmm. I know about this because I've had a part of my personality that's been angry, that is angry. By the way, a frightened part of your personality that's angry, for example, doesn't start to be a nice person after a while. It's always angry. Mm. The question is, are you going to act on it or not when it occurs in you? So the only way you can make a choice like that is to become so familiar with it that you recognize it at once. You recognize it in terms of physical sensations in your body, mm-hmm. what you feel like in your throat area, in your chest area, in your solar plexus area. And in this case, there'll be painful sensations there. It means recognizing it in terms of what it's thinking. Mm-hmm. It'll always be judging other people, angry. It'll be a victim, a righteous victim. And you can tell it from its intention. Its intention will be to change other people or situations so that it will feel better about itself. So this doesn't mean surrendering to my anger. It doesn't mean saying, well, I'm angry, I've always been angry. Check with my mom, she'll tell you. And that's the way I am. No. It's not that kind of surrender. It is having the courage to experience what anger or jealousy or resentment feels like in you. Mm-hmm. And recognize how big it is and how much it will take to challenge it. Because it's painful when you begin to challenge it, which means not act on it. It's very painful to challenge an addiction. Mm-hmm. We have somebody in an event that we just gave that said, I've been working on this for 6 years. And this time I finally heard what you've been talking about. And I went into the kitchen and I said, I wonder what it would feel like not to eat that cookie. And she said the pain was horrendous. Now she knows what she needs to challenge, the scope and power and size of it. Mm-hmm. She's not surrendering to it. She has been, you might say, surrendering to it. That's why she's so overweight. It's when she doesn't surrender to it. In other words, indulge. Some people would think of surrender as indulge. Mm-hmm. Experiencing a frightened part of your personality doesn't mean indulging it. It means becoming familiar with it and then deciding that you're not going to act on it. That's creating authentic power.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about the part or people that are coming that feel that they're really taking care of everybody and they're really giving out so much. And yet there's this gap. They're not really experiencing their authentic power either. And it's not much better really than being angry or having other feelings that could prevent them from really going to a new level to really explore their full potential. Tell us about that other side, because it can show up in people being inauthentic, I guess, in anger, but also in deep kindness or caring, but really not.
I think I understand what you're saying. It's natural for us to care about each other. It's natural to feel warm about people and to invite them into your life.
Yes.
But that's not the same as needing to take care of people so that they will appreciate your taking care of them. Mm-hmm. That is a frightened part of your personality. Mm-hmm. In other words, there's strings attached. Mm-hmm. When you caretake someone, it feels to you as though you really are caring about the other person, but actually you are doing it to make yourself feel better, mm-hmm. to make yourself feel valuable and safe. And if you don't eventually get some appreciation from the person you're caretaking, you won't like it. you'll begin to feel resentful. And then after a while, you might look at all the people that you've caretaken and say, why is it that I'm always taking care of people and no one takes care of me? Because after a while, people don't want you to take care of them anymore because they sense there's something sticky. That there's strings attached. That is a frightened part of your personality. So you can always tell the difference between a frightened part of your personality that's caretaking and a loving part of your personality that cares for other people by deciding in the moment that you feel the impulse to do something, not do it. Just not do it, and instead turn your attention inward. If it's a loving part of your personality, you'll find beautiful sensations there and beautiful thoughts of appreciation and gratitude. And if it's a frightened part of your personality, you'll find painful sensations and a need, a compulsion to do what you were going to do. In other words, everybody has frightened parts of their personality and everybody has loving parts. And if you're going to create authentic power, you need to be able to distinguish between the two and challenge the frightened parts by not acting on them when they become active. Which means when you get angry, when you get jealous, when you feel you need to eat, or you need to shop, or you need to drink, and recognizing and cultivating the loving parts, the parts that are patient and grateful and appreciative. It's really as simple as that. But it's the practice. As you begin to practice creating authentic power, you'll discover that every experience in your life gives you an opportunity. It gives you opportunity. You cannot choose what you're going to feel in the moment, but you can choose what you're going to do while you're feeling it. That's the difference when a frightened part of your personality is active between reacting and responding.
Is that what you call living consciously, being conscious?
Yes. Yes. You must be conscious before you can make a choice. You know, to change yourself requires awareness and volition. If you're not aware of something in yourself, you can't change it.
Yeah.
But even after you're aware of it, if you don't want to change it, it won't change. You won't change. When I was healing my addiction to sex, there were times when I was aware and I didn't want to change. Then in that process, I became aware and I realized with some real terror, I don't know if I can change. And then I realized the most terrifying thing of all. The universe will support me however I choose to learn love. I can continue on this destructive path of exploitation and emptiness, and the universe will support me. It's my choice. Or I can decide that I'm not going to be controlled by this part of my personality any longer, no matter how much I feel I need to. And I won't get a gold star or promoted to the first of the class. What will happen is I will change my life, or I will not change my life. And that's how the Earth School works. The power is in your hands. If you like being angry, if you like being impatient, if you like needing to please, and you like the consequences that all of that is creating, continue to do as you are doing. But if you want to move into your full potential, if you want to gain power over the parts of your personality that now have power over you, then you must become aware of them somatically, in terms of your body, in terms of your thoughts, and especially in terms of your body. That requires courage.
So now I hear you quite often say that we're becoming universal beings, or we are universal beings. And so being that, stepping in our authentic power is crucial right now. Is crucial, especially in this time with the shift and the energies and the frequencies being higher than ever.
If you are attempting to become something because you think it's crucial and it's urgent right now. That is a frightened part of your personality. If there's a compulsion to it, if I must do it now. If you can't enjoy yourself, look at what part of your personality you're experiencing. Yes, we are in an enormous transformation of consciousness, one that is unprecedented. And yes, the world in which we are now living is a world that is built on the perception of power as external, as the ability to manipulate and to control. And that perception of power now leads only to violence and destruction. That is the pursuit of external power. Yet, if you are attempting to pursue external power yourself, are you changing? Are you contributing to a change in the world?
Not greatly, no.
Not at all. So that's why the real frontier now is interior. This doesn't mean that I don't see that all of our social structures are dysfunctional and becoming more so, or that all of our interpersonal structures, or many of them, are dysfunctional and painful. It means that millions of us are waking up now to an ability to experience more than the perceptions of the five senses. We're beginning to sense ourselves as part of a larger tapestry of life. That's the transformation of consciousness that is underway, that we do not have to make happen. It is happening. That is not the same as creating authentic power. The question is, what will you do with your expanded perception? Will you continue to blame bankers for our economic difficulties, for the foreclosures that are now rampant in North America, in the United States and in Europe? Will you continue to blame doctors and hospitals and insurance companies for the fact that in the United States, at any rate, we're getting very poor medical care and paying more for it than any place in the world? We can address all of these issues at that level, the level that they're perceived by the five senses. Or we can look at the root cause of everything, from the abuse of women, abuse of Mother Earth, abuse of immigrant farm workers, exploitation of one another, physically, emotionally, sexually, financially. We can look at the root cause, and the root cause is consciousness. When that changes, everything changes. How can you change consciousness? Can you change my consciousness?
No.
No, you can't. You can try to convince me, convert me, proselytize me to your way of thinking so that you'll feel better about yourself and safe and secure. But you can't change my consciousness. There's only one person in the universe that can change my consciousness.
So what is...
And I am that person.
Yeah.
And if I don't change it, it doesn't change. Well, there's certain things in my life that I intend to change because I don't want to die with them. I don't want to die thinking about how to exploit women or neighbors, how to do things like get more money so that I'll feel better if more people see that I live in a nice place or have nice clothes. I could devote myself to that, but when I think about it now, it's a bit like looking at a black and white, old-timey television as opposed to full surround sound, deep color cinema. And that's what I want. And that requires creating authentic power.
So what is your deepest desire, deepest heart desire, I should say? Something that your soul really wants to see and people to get before anything else? Because there's a challenge, and we have talked about this in other interviews, but there's a challenge in unleashing this and being this authentic self.
There is nothing that I want other people to get or do. I intend to master and embody authentic power and help teach it to others. If I want you to become authentically powerful, so that I will feel better about myself. That's the pursuit of external power. And it produces violence and destruction. If I assist you in creating authentic power in every way that I can, but I'm not attached to it, because I can see the pain in you that comes from frightened parts of your personality, and I can see from my own experience that that's not necessary, then that is not the pursuit of external power. That is a natural reaching out to support in love. But the moment that I become attached, the moment I say, Lilu needs to create authentic power, and I'm going to feel better because I'm the one who introduced it to her, that's not. That's the pursuit of external power.
So as we are meeting other people, as we are walking in life and encountering with colleagues and family and loved ones, what is the best thing that we can do to connect really deeply with them on a soul level if we cannot do anything on the outside?
Of course. If someone is hungry, feed him. Now, if somebody wants to move in with you because they don't want to take care of themselves, don't feed him anymore. That won't be healthy for him. If somebody is dependent on you emotionally and you feel good by feeding that dependency, don't. You're both involved in an unhealthy dynamic. Becoming authentically powerful doesn't mean that you sit doing nothing all day. Everyone's got families, and everyone knows that families can be very difficult. Everyone's got issues with money, sex, relationship, but all of these issues are actually issues with fear. The question is, will you choose fear or will you choose love? And in all of this myriad, kaleidoscopic experience that makes a single day on the earth school, will you be able to distinguish what is love in you and what is fear, and act from love? So, if that requires feeding the poor, being in a soup line in a city, do it. There are people who've done things like that. One of them that I admire a great deal is Ram Dass. But I know that Ram Dass hasn't helped to create a hospice movement, and hasn't helped to feed people who are hungry because it makes him feel better or superior for having done that. He does it because he's a loving person without attachment. But if somebody is a philanthropist, feeds the poor because they want to feel valuable about themselves, well, that's the pursuit of external power.
Sometimes it means also closing or completing a relationship and moving forward.
Absolutely. It doesn't mean stopping your love.
Yeah.
It means that you shift, maybe to call it a passive love. But be aware of what it is that
where you're coming from.
Because it's very easy to confuse love with need until you recognize that love doesn't hurt and need does. So if you are hurting and say, oh, I love him so, oh, I hurt so much, I love him so, I can't live without him. This must be deep love. It's deep fear. It's deep sense of inadequacy. It is a lack of trust in the universe. It is feeling that you must have this other person or must have this goal accomplished in order for you to feel valuable and worthy. Worthy of what? Worthy of your life. Worthy of being on the earth.
What is some of the deepest fear you think are so anchored in our beingness, most of us experience, and are really, that we should really all look at? We could look at.
It is the fear of not belonging. It is the fear of not being lovable. It is the fear of not being able to love. It is the fear of being inherently flawed. It's the fear of being intrinsically defective. It is the fear that it is the fear of people seeing us the way we really are, because if that happened, they wouldn't love us. They couldn't love us. And these experiences are excruciating. This is the pain of powerlessness. And everybody feels the pain of powerlessness. In the past, we have reached outward to change things around us to mask the pain of powerlessness. We've created careers. We've looked lovely. We've become educated. We've strengthened our bodies. We've become brutal or become kind, all to mask the pain of powerlessness. But that doesn't work anymore. We have a new evolutionary path now. That path requires us to look inward instead of outward, to find the interior source of the pain of powerlessness and heal it in us. I in me and you in you. And we can assist one another.
Yeah.
This is spiritual partnership, a partnership between equals for the purpose of spiritual growth. But that doesn't mean that all day long I'm talking to you like I am now and teaching and explaining and explaining. You wouldn't want to be with me after 45 minutes. I'm talking to you this way now because we're having an interview.
Yes.
So that people that are watching us on television can gain as much as possible. Maybe there's other ways they could gain even more. But we support one another as spiritual partners by becoming healthy ourselves. In other words, the best support I can give to you in creating authentic power is to create it myself. That way when we interact, I can hopefully detect a part of my personality that may have second agendas. For example, anything, everything has an intention. Every action, everything that you say has an intention. If my intention were to say something wise in order to impress you, so that I would be on your internet television show, well, that would be the pursuit of external power. It wouldn't help anything. It wouldn't change me. And people who listen might like the ideas because ideas themselves have power and attraction. But the energy, the intention behind it would not match the power of the idea. An intention is a consciousness that infuses an action or a talk or a word. And so when you choose your intention, that's what creates consequences. I could be abrupt and rude, but if my intention is to support, is loving, it will create loving consequences. I can be polished and polite and smiling and charming and know the best jokes, but if my intention is self-serving or exploitative, those are the consequences that it's going to create for me. You can't fool yourself. Sooner or later, you will come to know what your intention is. Only you can know what your intention is.
So when we are in front or with our spiritual partners, it's important to set an intention then in order to go deeper or to be authentic and have authentic communication, because a lot of people, from what you're saying and what we're noticing in life, are communicating from a fear level. So how can we really be there for another, ourselves coming from a place of authentic power?
Yes, so we can be even more accurate. Instead of saying they're communicating from a fear level, we can say they are indulging or acting on a frightened part of their personality.
Yes.
That they can challenge by becoming emotionally aware and choosing responsibly. That means making a choice that creates consequences for which you're willing to assume responsibility. And take, for example, Linda. She's my life partner. We live together, we work together, we do everything together. She's a spiritual partner, but so are two of my granddaughters. So are many of the people in our Authentic Power program. So are many of the people that we meet around the country. That's why I love going to events. And if I am going to give the best that I can. If I'm going to be present and in the moment, if I'm going to know that what I'm saying is not mindless chatter because I'm feeling uncomfortable, or wanting to manipulate them so that I'll feel better about myself, then it requires, yes, my being aware. In other words, your life, as you create authentic power, becomes an ongoing meditation. And as you begin to see that everything in it provides you opportunities to grow spiritually, you become like a sailor, and no wind can blow that doesn't fill your sails.
I love the vision.
That is a beautiful vision.
Yes.
And those particular words have been in my heart since I first came across them. The first time I heard them was in a book by William James, the great American psychologist.
That was the book. That was the book that started it all for you. A lot of people have this one book.
No, I won't say that at all. It didn't happen like that. But sometimes you can read a book or hear a person's voice or be with that person, and you instantly feel a love for that person. I felt that in the way that this person wrote, and I thought to myself, I would like to have that energy. When people read a book that I write, I would like them to feel that way. Not about me, about themselves.
So which space, when you write a book, because you wrote many New York Times bestsellers, how do you write? How do you go about it? How do you get in this space of pure creation, pure potential?
I understand what you're asking. I'd suggest to you and to you who are listening to go to seatofthesoul.com. That's S-E-A-T, like what you sit on, of the S-O-U-L.com. And when you're there, download the Spiritual Partnership Guidelines and print them out. They're free. Almost everything on the website is free. In fact, at the moment, everything is free. So you can print out the Spiritual Partnership Guidelines. They're guidelines that will help you change yourself, not change other people. Now, I'm saying all this because the Spiritual Partnership Guidelines are guidelines in commitment and courage and compassion and conscious communication and action. Well, I'm directing your attention now to the guidelines of conscious communication and action, because you ask me, how would you create? How would you get in a creative space? The first guideline is, the conscious communications and actions means the intention to make all of my interactions conscious and loving. Well, that's a wonderful intention, but how do you do it? First of all, before an interaction, consult your intuition. Ask yourself, ask your intuition, what's the best way to handle this? Now, I'm going to have an interview with Lilu. What would be the best way that I could approach it? Or I'm going to have a personal talk with Lilu and I want to share something. What would be the best way to do that? Then set your intention. Then I set my intention. What is it that I intend? Well, we set the intention for this interview to support people in the most constructive way we can. You put it in your terms and I put it in mine, which is to support people in creating authentic power. Then speak or act from the healthiest part of your personality that you can reach for. For example, you may be in the moment feeling upset, and you're thinking, the last thing I want to do is have an interview. Well, you can't choose how you're going to feel, but you can choose what you're going to do while you feel it. You can recognize that that's a frightened part of your personality and choose to act from a healthy part of your personality instead while you're feeling it. You might sit down with someone and right away you think, I don't like this person. He shouldn't even be on my show. So while you're feeling that, you can know that that's a frightened part of your personality. In fact, you're probably projecting some things about yourself that you don't like at all or don't want to look at, and you see them in someone else and you don't like them there. But you can think all those things and know all those things, but the reality of the moment is you don't want to do this interview. and you know that's a frightened part of your personality. In that moment, you can choose to reach for the most healthy part of your personality that you can and act from that.
So when you're writing, when you're in the creative mode and you're writing all your books, you're setting this intention and you're reaching to this deepest, most profound place, even though if maybe at that moment you don't feel like it or you don't want to.
Yes, the last thing that I intend to do.
There's a lot of blockages. I hear a lot of writer blockages, or people just don't want to, or sometimes we prevent all this good creative, all this juice, the most abundant, beautiful things. We push them away, and then we always find some time to do some other things.
That's right, exactly. I spent 2 years once waiting for the creative energy to come back.
Yeah.
I thought, there's something I can do about this.
Yeah.
I don't have to sit here hoping that someday I'm going to feel like writing a book.
Yeah.
I can set the intention to share what's most important to me. I can ask my intuition, what's the best way to do this? And then I can sit down and start to do it. And if I sit there for 4 hours and nothing comes, that's what I'll do.
Not avoiding it, really diving into it.
Yes, if I really want to do it, then I'm not going to let a frightened part of my personality stop me. I'm not going to write from a frightened part of my personality.
So you'll just sit there and face it and be with it.
Yes. Yes. And then act from the healthiest part that I can. And if the best I can do is just be there for 4 hours, then I'll do that. But after you set your intention and reach for the healthiest part, then if you speak or act, speak specifically and personally. Now, I'm not so much talking about writing books. Sometimes there's different ways to write books, and specifically and personally is one of them, and it's a very strong way. But when you're talking with someone, if it's an interaction with someone, then speak specifically and personally, not in general terms. Like, in general there's a problem with the world. Like, a lot of people are angry, and you could say, I'm angry. I have a frightened part of my personality that's angry. And this is what activated it. You said to me, and I intend to heal it. Now here you have to be very aware of your intention. Remember, that was the second step. Because in the times we've been teaching, Linda and I have seen many people use the spiritual partnership guidelines for their own purposes, for the purposes of a frightened part of the personality. For example, someone will say, I'm angry at you, and I want to tell you that I really disliked what you said. And I'm saying this because I want to challenge a frightened part of my personality. But they're not at all. They're still in it. And they're using that as justification to vent. It's not the intention to heal themselves. It's not the intention to interact with a spiritual partner, because they don't care if you're going to, they don't want to hear what you have to say. They want to say that they're angry at you and this is why. So be aware of your intention. And I say that for everyone who's listening to us. Be aware of your intention to the extent that you can, because if you're not, it's going to create consequences that are going to be painful for you. And if you are aware of your intention, and you know it comes from a frightened part of your personality, then reach for an intention from a loving part of your personality, and that will create constructive consequences for you. So those are ways to speak. Now, there's one more step. Detach from the outcome. If you go all the way through this process, and you find that you're disappointed because you're not getting the result you wanted, you realize that you were really pursuing external power. You weren't creating authentic power. And when that happens, start again. And I don't mean just at the top of the communication and actions guidelines. I mean at the top. Commitment. Is spiritual growth my highest priority? Because that's the commitment that's required. And that requires paying attention to what I can learn about myself, especially when I'm upset. It requires the things we've been talking about, paying attention to what I'm feeling in my energy centers, call it throat and chest and solar plexus, and there's more. Paying attention to what I'm thinking. Is it critical, judgmental, or is it appreciative and patient? Pay attention to my intention. Is it to get something done so I'll feel better? Or is it to create harmony or cooperation or sharing or reverence for life? And then use my courage. Courage means the courage to stretch yourself beyond the limitations of the frightened parts of your personality. And to do that, you have to take responsibility for everything you're experiencing.
And trust.
Yes. But start with trust. Trust doesn't mean you can't just say, I trust the universe, because there's a part of you that doesn't trust. Those are the frightened parts. They don't trust the universe. They said, yeah, I trust the universe, but I better, yeah, well, if I really trusted the universe, it wouldn't make me, I wouldn't be sad, I wouldn't be angry, I wouldn't be disappointed, I wouldn't get sick. Trusting the universe is something that you can experience and develop yourself. You can start with the premise that the universe is compassionate and wise. Maybe you have to entertain that thought. But as you create authentic power, you'll see just how true it is. You'll see how every interaction you have, whether it's cancer or someone who upsets you with their words, gives you an opportunity to challenge a frightened part of your personality or cultivate a loving part. So there's more guidelines, and I invite you,
Yes.
and I invite everyone to go to seatofthesoul.com and look at them, print them out, and put them around the house. You might have noticed when you were in the studio that I have them everywhere.
Yes.
Because even though I've been working with them for a long time, I don't want to forget them. I don't want to start indulging a frightened part of my personality. Not with Linda, not with someone that I work with, not with someone that I meet in a store.
But I saw commitment is all the way up there, and I'm glad you brought this up, because
Commitment is at the top.
Yeah. Isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Because if you have one foot in, one foot out, nothing really is possible.
Not the things that you want, not the possibilities that will bring you the most joy and the most fulfillment. Everything is possible. Which of those possibilities do you want to bring into being?
Which possibilities do you
That's
want to bring into being?
right.
This is a
That's
great
right.
question. Thank you, Gary. Thank you so much for this beautiful time
You're welcome, Lilo.
and opening so much in our lives for us to have juicy lives. What is
Yes.
for you living a juicy life then, since this is a juicy living tour?
Well, we are here in this beautiful, beautiful nature-filled place.
Yes.
We are talking about the most substantive and nurturing things that it's possible to think of. We are very fortunate. We have food to eat and we are healthy. This is all very juicy.
Yes.
I have a wonderful spiritual partner, Linda Francis, and I have many more spiritual partners I love being with. And I'm discovering that I love people. This is very, very surprising to me because I didn't for a long time in my life. And that's juicy.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, my delicious co-creators, this was definitely a juicy conversation. Thank you, Gary. And thank you for taking the time in your busy schedule. I know you're flying out tomorrow.
You're welcome. It's a joy.
Much love, my delicious co-creators. And if you want to support the tour, remember that this is all in donation. So you're welcome to help us, support us, and continuing doing those beautiful videos around the world that are impacting your life and life of millions of people around the world. So thank you, and we send you much love. We'll see you next time. Bye.
the ability to live your life with an empowered heart without attachment to the outcome. The ability to distinguish within yourself the difference between love and fear, and choose love no matter what is going on inside of you or outside of you. In other words, we're going to talk about creating authentic power. Some people might call it self-mastery, but there's different ways of interpreting that word. But authentic power means alignment of your personality with your soul, with the highest part of yourself that you can reach for. And the intentions of your soul are harmony and cooperation and sharing and reverence for life. So as you create a personality that naturally brings the intentions of the soul into the earth school, into being here where we walk and talk and live and eventually will die, you become authentically powerful. That means creating.
We're creating.
Creating. It's not a matter of kicking back and say, well, this feels good, welcome, come on in.
Or by welcoming, I mean allowing and just surrendering to it all for it to come, instead of actively pursuing this authentic power.
You actively create authentic power. Surrender, I don't usually use the word surrender because it has connotations that of being passive. However, there is something about that word that points in a direction that's very healthy. For example, you can't change something about yourself if you're not willing to look at it. You can't look at it if you're not willing to accept that it is a part of you. And until you can really accept that it is a part of you, you can't change it. You'll be pushing it away, denying it, not welcoming it. So let's take a part of your personality, for example, anger. I know about this because I've had a part of my or love with a capital L. These are all the same things. So as you align yourself with your soul, you're not aligning yourself with your mind. You're aligning yourself
with the heart?
With the heart, yes, you could say that. You could say that because as you create more compassion and wisdom in your life, you naturally become a person who cares more about other people than you did before, who doesn't so much see other people as different. Of course, everyone's unique. But compassion doesn't come from the mind. So it comes from the heart. And so as you become a compassionate person, a loving person, you could say you become a person of the heart. But we're talking about how you become a person of the heart, how you become someone who is loving. And that is to create authentic power.
So are we actually creating or welcoming?
You become clear and forgiving and humble and loving. These are the characteristics of authentic power.
So you would say that the soul is more powerful than the mind?
What I'm suggesting is that there is no part of us that isn't soul. No part of us that isn't soul. The soul is the bigger, the mind is the smaller. The soul sees more, the mind doesn't see so much. The soul lives and experiences in dimensions that we as personalities don't. Everything is spiritual. Spiritual means having to do with the soul. So it's not a matter of mind, body, spirit. There's only spirit. Everything is spirit. Everything is consciousness with a capital C, or life with a capital L.
Hello my delicious co-creators, Lilu here. I'm in Ashland in Oregon on this magnificent GC Living tour around the world, and today I have the pleasure to be sitting next to Gary Zukav. Hello.
Hello, Lilu.
It's wonderful to spend this moment with you.
Yes, it's good to be with you again also.
Gary is, as you know, an amazing person that have transformed millions of people's life, has appeared over 30 times on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and today he's with us, and we're going to speak about, you had many best-selling books, New York Times bestsellers, but really today we're going to get into the core of the core. We're going to touch the soul. We're going to go into the heart of it all.
Yes, well, the heart of it all is choosing love. That's the heart. But not a sentimental love, and not a love that you get when things are going the right way, or that someone you want to be with you is with you, but love, meaning